head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices like Pandemic Legacy Season 0. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Over the past few years, Pandemic Legacy Season 1 or 2 has been blockbuster hits. Well, now today we're going to look at what they're calling the final episode in this saga, but it's actually a prequel. It's Pandemic Season 0. Now, you don't have to have played either of the other ones to play this one. I'm going to give you a non-spoiler sort of what is different about this than the other ways that Pandemic plays, because there's definitely some major differences. And then I'll give you sort of a first impressions of what I think of the game. As I mentioned in the intro, I'm just going to show you what's different from the other type of Pandemic games here. One of the main differences is you're not using cubes and diseases aren't spreading. This is a realistic theme, and they're agents instead of cubes that are going to be sort of moving around and adding to the globe. And here's what those agents look like up close. And at the end of turns, instead of spreading cubes, you're going to be having new agents be added, a certain amount just like before, but like Washington, for example. But if when you pull the card, it actually is a city that has 3, you don't do an outbreak like the normal Pandemic. The first thing is you'll place an incident token there in that spot. It doesn't like spread out like before. You just place this, and then from the bottom of that deck, you will just do the incident. Like this says Sleeper Cell activate, place an agent in every city with 1 or more of these incident tokens in Europe, for example. Now, interesting thing about these cards is that this actually goes in the game end area. So we know that this city is not going to directly get agents for the rest of the game. Now, you might notice that there's some surveillance icons. If you ever start your turn where there's a surveillance, for each one of those, it can hold up to 3. You would, what they say, lose cover. And in your passport, everyone gets one of these really cool passport books. I'm showing you one that we haven't used yet. In this passport book, you would actually scratch off like a scratch card from left to right every time you lose cover, and it's going to do bad things to you, essentially. Now, in the first game, in the prologue, you just use like an alias, and you just lose a card for every surveillance. But once you get going here, now you notice there's a space for a name, different stickers and such, different liability stickers you'll get, different disguises you can put on here. And I'm not going to show you all of them, but you basically get to dress up or create your character in the game. It's really cool. Now, instead of epidemic cards, you have escalation cards, which essentially work the same way. Now, each of the missions is going to have different objectives. This is for the prologue mission, is you have to search for agent in a specific spot and acquire this target, and you have to acquire target in an unknown city in Europe. Now, this is very interesting because there's a level of deduction to this game, meaning you have to, through deducing which cities it's not in, which city this unknown target might be in. And when looking for unknown targets, you know that if any player, these are the player cards, have a city from that area, like Europe, we know it's not going to be Rome or East Berlin because we have those cards. And so once you get cards, you can sort of like put these little trackers out there to say, okay, we know it's not in that place. So you're either going to try to rule things out throughout the game, or there's a way to find it out for sure. If you notice, I just put a safe house here. One thing you could do is discard a city card that matches this city to put a safe house in. So you could discard an Istanbul card when you're in Istanbul like this, and you can add a safe house. That safe house allows you to do a few things. One thing is, if this had a surveillance and you start your turn here, you don't lose cover if you're with a safe house. Also, if you're at a safe house, you can discard 3 cards of the same region that you're in, and assuming that's the region that the unknown location is, you will be able to figure it out. You'll just be able to find it. You'll look under here and be like, oh, okay, we get to look this up. Oh, we know now that the target is actually in Warsaw. So you can sort of rush it, but you're gonna waste a lot of cards doing so. Another thing these safe houses allow you to do is build a team. If you are going to discard, if you're at a safe house, you discard 5 cards with the affiliation. These are the allies, that's an ally. If you discard 5 cards with that symbol on it, you'll be able to put a team there. It's basically a van of your team that has that icon on it. Now, a cool thing about this is at the end of your, after you've done your turn, if there's any agents in a city with an active van or team, which is only active when it's in a spot of that affiliation, all of the agents get removed from there. You can also be, for an action, you can move these, each spot is one action. So now you can move the vans around there and removing, different agents at the end of the round. But if it ever goes into a place that doesn't have the affiliation, essentially it's inactive and it can't really do its thing. But if it's there and it's in a spot that has its affiliation, that's one way that you can sort of do the objectives or complete the objectives in the game. Now, since this was in Warsaw, we would have needed to have added one of these at a safe house at one of the spots that had that Russian affiliation and move this here, and then for an action, we can complete that mission. And those are pretty much the big differences here, how things work. Again, trying to build safe houses so you can bring out teams. Those teams have to remove agents, but you're also trying to get them to the cities of its affiliation to finish it. For example, if you wanted to finish this one, you would need to have a van or team with this affiliation in this city. So we would need to have this here, we would need to have the affiliation, and then for an action, you can complete that objective. And that's pretty much how the game is different from the normal Pandemic. But much like other legacy games, especially in Pandemic, there's a debrief book with some top secret things that you'll read over the course of the game, different boxes you'll unlock, and lots of top secret envelopes that you'll be getting different stickers for different things in the game. Well, there you have Pandemic Season 0. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything more, but the things I liked about this right off the bat, the historical and realistic theme. I love those in games, and this is in spades here. I was very excited to see that it was set in sort of a real setting in time, and it goes along with what you're trying to do in those time periods. I like the agents instead of just the cubes and the disease spreading. That was sort of a thematic thing that made sense, and it was a welcome thing from a component standpoint too. I like the incidents versus the outbreaks. Again, giving you a new twist where bad things are going to happen when you get a fourth agent in an area, but it works very differently, and different bad things are going to happen, and it takes that card out of the game, so that city's safe from getting more and more agents there as well during the sort of the escalation stage. Now, the safe houses is pretty cool because you get to build those. It keeps you from getting losing cover, but they got to be in there with a specific affiliation. You're playing cards of the affiliation of where it's at. I thought that was a cool thing to try to figure out. The teams also trying to figure out, you got to put it in a safe house with that specific affiliation and get that team, but that team's only going to be active in areas of the world that have that affiliation. I thought that was pretty cool, and I love the deductive aspect, trying to figure out where some of these unknown locations are by either letting the game go on and you learn more and more and deducing, and then deciding how many teams can we set up, or do you want to just spend the time wasting the cards, not necessarily wasting, but spending the cards, which are tough resources, to find out exactly where it is a little bit earlier and see if you can get enough cards in order to get the target and complete the objective. The passports are really cool looking. They really look like real passports. I mean, the gold leaf on the front, just the material they're made of on the outside really feels like passports. And setting up your character with all the different disguises is just really fun. Overall, I really enjoyed the differences of this Pandemic. It didn't feel like either of the two because of those differences. Sure, it feels like Pandemic, but it definitely feels different enough from the others that if you're getting sort of tired of the same old thing, sure, the turn structure is the same. The way that a lot of the things work are similar or the same. But these big twists and differences for me make it feel different. On the negative side of things, much like many of these legacy games, you really need to play this with the same group all the way through, which is tough for me, and I know it's tough for some others. But overall, if you're looking for that legacy experience and you want to be the way that Pandemic Legacy is done in the past, but you want to have a fresh new feeling with a realistic theme and some thematic ways to bring in new mechanisms, then definitely want to check out Pandemic Season 0. Lucky Duck Games has launched a brand new online shop and are offering you, my viewers, a special discount. During checkout, use promo code GameBoyGeek10 and you'll save 10% on the price of your games. On the Lucky Ducks game shop, you'll find exciting new releases such as Tang Garden, which I recently reviewed, and the link is below, and It's a Wonderful World, as well as award-winning games like Chronicles of Crime, which is one of my favorite cooperative games of all time, and Vikings Gone Wild. So why not visit LuckyDuckGames.com now and find something new to play?